Hey, Jesse. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So glad to have you on Radical Metal. I may start off, JB, with a quick introduction because I think it's a cool story. We met, we might have been Facebook friends before, maybe not. But we met at Mastodon Secret Show, Big Hairy Elephant at the Star
Yep.
Bar.
Yep.
Um, just, gosh, maybe a week ago or a week and a half ago.
Yeah, and to let you know, I became aware of you and the channel because of the Mastodon Mayhem Group giveaway.
Yeah, that's right.
So and so that's when I found out about you and subscribed to your channel. And then about maybe a week and a half later, I met you at the show in real life. So I was like, ah, there's Jesse. So that was cool to get to meet you and Rick and a couple people from the group at the show was awesome.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
fun? It was awesome to be hanging out with Mastodon in such a small venue. My highlight of that quick trip was hanging out with you and the rest of the guys from Palaces.
Oh man,
Uh,
that's what a that's a crazy honor, man, and thank you. We were just so blown away by being able to do that show. I know me and you have talked outside of this about that, but man, what a great night! And it was like a room full of family and friends. Uh, and I mean, with the history of the Star Bar and Mastodon's history of being the first club they ever sold out way back 20 something years ago here in Atlanta. And then their career from that point on up to now and then coming back to play that place. I mean,
mhm.
that was just a magical experience for me. I mean, as a huge fan of those guys and friends of those guys.
Hey, you know what? For some reason, the connection, you're freezing up a lot. You're getting,
Do you want me to try to move to another?
I don't know, but maybe I need to. I might need to go inside. Well, guys, running around. Can I do this with these headphones here? And I probably don't need these anymore. You'll see I'm wearing a Palace's shirt, and that's cool, isn't it? I bought two of them. What a bummer. Hey, so this is a band called Palaces, and this is one of their funny shirts that they made with a different spelling because they're being funny, and it's pretty hilarious. This shirt I bought because Palaces was opening for Mastodon in a dive bar down in Atlanta called the Star Bar, which is part of Mastodon history and history of a lot of other bands. Now, I had briefly gotten to know via a Mastodon fan page a little bit JB, who you're about to talk to, because he was aware of me of a recent guitar giveaway that Radical Metal did via the Mastodon Mayhem page. So if you love Mastodon, you should join Mastodon Mayhem. It's a great group. Anyway, he recognized me when I got to the place. We were just standing outside and then introduced himself. We got to know each other. And my highlight of that trip, you'd think it would be hanging out with Mastodon in a Star Bar, but the highlight of my trip there was hanging out with him and the rest of the guys in the band Palaces. They're just so cool. They're just like cool. They're full of gratitude, which is like a huge sign that who you're hanging out with is cool, full of gratitude and fun and hilarious. And it was really fun getting to know them. Eric is he won't be on the show, but Eric is the guitarist I got to know, big Raiders fan. So you had me at Raiders, and just really great to get to know them. And their riffs are you definitely know that they love Mastodon. There's definitely I would say a hint, and that's a compliment, I think, because Mastodon is very challenging stuff to play with a progressive metal, progressive rock, but they do their own thing and they do have their own unique sound. You can just hear some of the influences. And JB, the guy you're about to meet, if we didn't show him in a clip before, JB, the guy you're about to meet, is a phenomenal drummer. Phenomenal. And that was easy to. Oh, we got JB back. Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
got a connection.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. I had to move to my junky garage, so apologize for the surroundings, but
No, it
yeah,
looks
that's a
cool,
lot
man.
better.
Well, I moved to this is a poster from my band Triodem, and my brother always makes fun of me because it looks like Megan from that weird AI movie.
No, I saw that and I was wondering what that artwork was because I thought that looked cool when I saw that
Well,
earlier in a different,
yeah,
different.
yeah. You know
Wow,
who did it? You know who did it was a guy named. You should look him up, Kelvin Doran, who's done Mastodon posters.
I like the shirt you're wearing today. Thank you.
I bought two of them, bro. I bought two
I
of these.
know. You went
So
above and beyond.
well, so but that's an indication of how much I love you guys. And I'm a fast fan, and it's because of hanging out with you the night you opened for Mastodon at Star
When-
Bar.
Yes.
You, you and the fellas. And as I mentioned to you earlier, when we were having some sound problems, video problems, that was the highlight. You think the highlight would be me seeing my favorite band ever in a small venue, but it wasn't. It was
Oh
Palaces and you guys.
man, Jesse, what a honor and thank you so much, man. We really appreciate the kind words and people like we met so many people that night that we became friends with and met for the first time and like I mentioned to you before off camera. The great thing about Mastodon, aside from their wonderful music and how cool they are as people, is all their fans typically tend to be some of the best folks. And I've met so many people through Mastodon or Mastodon related things, and especially
Yeah.
the. I want to give a quick shout out to the Mayhem group on Facebook and Amanda and Johnny, everybody behind the scenes that runs that page. Um, I feel like I know them, even though I've never met them or really spoke to them, just because the years of following that page and all the great things that go on in there. So, which is how I became aware of you and your channel. So through the guitar giveaway recently. So,
Yeah, that guitar giveaway has paid off dividends. Of course, it helped with getting some more subs, but it also helped in getting to know more people like you. I mean, you came up to me when I ran into you in front of Star Bar, and
yep,
it was just a great connection to get a conversation started. And then I realized how cool you and Eric were outside, and later got to know Steve.
yep.
I don't think I didn't talk to your bassist and singer very much. I regret that, but I think there wasn't an opportunity with all the
Well,
chaos going on.
yeah, that was there was so many people that night too that I kind of saw from across the room. Like I've got to say hello to, but it was so packed in there. Of course, sold out to capacity. So myself, I had the same issue, man. I didn't get to speak to everybody, but yeah, Jeremy's his name, our bass player, and one of our three vocalists. So of course, then I play drums. Steven and Eric are both guitarists and vocalists as well. But man, we had such a great time at that thing. One of the highlights of my long and weird musical journey. Um, I've kind of taken a non-typical route to get to where I am today, just based on kind of getting interrupted by meeting a wonderful woman, getting married, having children, raising a family for many years, and all through that, still playing music, but unable to really pursue it as a more serious professional thing or a touring thing, just because I was kind of landlocked in Atlanta. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
played hundreds of shows, but they've all kind of been in this one geographical area so far. But we're looking to get out this fall and get on the road, man. So hopefully maybe we'll get up to where you are.
Oh, that'd be great. You know, I'll be
Yeah.
there. And that's understandable. I mean, you're kind of an inspiration to me because that's sort of what happened to me in my band. I had a kid, and then the other guitarist had a kid, and we never even broke up. I think we just all understood we have to be on hiatus for a while.
Man, yes. I mean, there's been people that I play with. I play in a couple of bands. Palaces is my main project, but I play in two other bands here in Atlanta because drummers are in short supply. I guess that's a pretty typical issue to have when you're in a metal scene, from what I found. But yeah, man, like people have been very patient with me while I've been like, hey guys, I can't practice for a couple weeks because my wife's having a baby because we've done that 4 times. Me and my wife, we have 4 children, so
That's amazing.
My two older ones are now getting into playing music here in Atlanta, so it's been a really cool thing. But one of my older son plays bass in a band. My second older son is a terrifyingly good drummer right out. Like he's only been playing seriously a couple of years, but I'm like, man, dude, he's gonna be I'm really excited about seeing what he gets up to in the next, as he matures. I'm stoked to see them kind of take what I've done and kind of get inspired by that and do their own thing because they're not playing the same styles of music I do, but they're developing their own character, which I love. That's awesome. And I'm very
That's great. I can see, well, if he's got talent, I can see where he gets it. Can I give you a compliment real quick? And I hope I don't embarrass you, but your drumming is otherworldly. It's from another place. It is amazing. It's the type of drumming that I guess you can make some connections, which is a compliment between you and Bron Daler, but your own thing at the same time. I've been mesmerized listening to you guys in preparation for this conversation. But I want to tell people too, not just me, but Bron Daler, when you guys were playing, came out and stood by me, and his eyes were focused on you the whole time. It was
crazy.
Awesome.
That was crazy. I wasn't aware of that while we were playing the show, but I've looked up to that guy as one of the greatest metal drummers to ever live. Ever since I became aware of him around the year 2000 or so, and listened to his work with Today Is the Day and then the early Mastodon stuff. The way he approached playing drums in a metal band was kind of at the time totally foreign to what I had been exposed to, listening to growing up listening to punk and then getting into the like a lot of people I guess my age, Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, and then moving on into death metal and more technical music. And I remember when Bron moved to Atlanta and Mastodon started, and the first time I heard him, if you don't mind, I'd love to tell this story because there was a giant practice space in Atlanta back then called Black Box, which is no longer due to gentrification and the building getting bought up to turn into condos or whatever goes on here in Atlanta a lot. But I was in this death metal band. We were in a room there, and the room next to us was empty for a little while. And then one day I, realized somebody had moved into that room. And then I started hearing Bron I guess the other dudes weren't in there yet. It was one day they were about to practice and he was just in there warming up. And it was life-changing just to hear him for a few minutes. Just like, I never heard anybody, play like, he's like a lead drummer, is how I describe it, or more like a Buddy Rich meets metal, and at the time I was so focused on trying to just play fast and double bass and blast beats, but otherwise generic, I guess, death metal drumming, so I heard him, I was just like, holy shit, like that's going to be huge. And I kind of had a feeling about those guys right off the bat, man. Like they were so original and so damn good. All those guys, of course, amazing musicians, but them coming together and the product that came out. I still listen to that early Mastodon stuff and it still amps me up like I'm a 20-year-old again. It's timeless to me, and I love all their material. But man, that early stuff is woo. So when I watched back the show videos, like my GoPro footage, and I saw Bron over there, watching us, and I was like, wow, man, life is a trip. Because, a few years ago, if you would have asked me if that ever would have happened, I would have been like, I don't see that happening. But, we got to be good friends with Bill Kelleher through practicing at Ember City, and he's been a big supporter of us. So we love Bill, we love Troy, Brent, Bron, all those guys. They're good friends of ours, and they've been a huge inspiration to me. But thank you, man. Like that, it's hard for me to wrap my head around you paying me that compliment about my drumming, because I tend to be a big self-doubter. I think a lot of people that play music struggle with that. Like, but then again, I feel like if I didn't have that mentality of get it, you can always do better, I can always play better, like it wouldn't push you to be better, so I really never want to get complacent and think like, oh man, like I'm really good at my instrument, because to me, I see every other drummer in Atlanta, and there's a lot of amazing bands in Atlanta. It's it's a great time to be a musician in this city. There's I saw you did an interview with Yosemite and Black.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are awesome. I could name 50 more bands, but like every time I go out and see shows here in Atlanta and I see the drummers in the scene, I'm just like, wow, man. Like, yeah, I'm just fortunate to even be considered in that peer group, you know, like that. And that's one of the driving factors that always pushed me to play drums and to play music is I just wanted to be peers with all these dudes, you know, like, and that's the reward for me. I love that. And I love seeing all the music that gets made. And I'm just glad Palaces is considered good enough to play with some of these bands. You know what I mean?
Good enough to play with some of these bands and a Mastodon.
Yeah. I mean, man, I've had a lot of people reach out to me that I've known for years that I might have not talked to in a while. And they're like, holy crap, you know, that's awesome. And, I just feel like, man, I've worked really hard to get that finally get to the point where we got that opportunity. And uh I don't want to use the word blessed, but I feel very, you know, very blessed that guys like Bill and Braun or any of them consider us, you know, and that's the thing about Mastodon. If people are not familiar with them, even though they're mega huge rock gods in my mind, like they are still the most down to earth, regular dudes. When you see them here in their hometown, they're the coolest, and they treat the other bands that practice at Ember City, you know, like where they practice, they treat us all like like you know the same as they would probably guys they're on tour with, like Lamb of God or whoever. They're
Yeah.
just, you know, I mean, and I can't say enough good things about them and what they care about their fans. They care about music in general, and you know they're awesome. I'm just of all the time to be born in human history. I was fortunate enough to be born and be in the city that I'm in, get to know those dudes and get to play that, you know, music around them and to hear. I'm still overwhelmed, man. You know,
Well,
honestly.
that something you said something earlier that I think is good to speak to. I think a little bit of insecurity is a good thing. Like you know, and to not think you're as good as maybe guys like me are saying you are. Because like you said, I think because it pushes you. If you didn't have that, then I bet it would be challenging to get even better, right? I think it's a little bit of that's healthy.
Yeah, and I mean, people. I had this discussion with a friend of mine that plays in another band that I think is just amazing, and he was having this discussion with me the other day about like, man, he just put out something and felt bummed about, you know, maybe the immediate response and doubting himself. And I was like, dude, you know, like we all go through this, all of us. I
Mhm.
mean, me and Steven call each other constantly like, dude, you know, like, are we even good? Like, you know, like we struggle with these things, man. And it's like, I think as musicians, a lot of times it's hard to accept, you know, that you're worthy, or it's that imposter syndrome thing, like, you know, that sometimes we suffer with, or, and maybe I'm not describing that in the best way, but,
Well,
um,
humility. It's humility, I think, which is a good thing to have.
yeah, man. And I think music is the kind of thing, no matter what kind of music you play, it's a lifelong journey. And you can always, you know, even it's that one of those things like the more you learn, the more you realize how much you have to learn. And
Hmm.
that's the wonderful thing about it is like, no matter how good you get, you're still a student. And I
Yeah.
never, you know, you're never a master. You're always a student. And you talk to Braun or any of the best drummers in the world, I find that's a theme that they're always like, yeah, man, I've still got so much more to learn. And that's, you know, I've always viewed music as more of a something I do for my mental health and for my own happiness. I want to impress myself. And it's like a martial art in a lot of ways. Like, you know, it's a fine um learning to let music flow through you and not think in verbal terms while you're playing. And just like I don't know how, yeah, I sound like a
Let it
hippie
go.
saying all this. But it's to me,
Well,
it's a very spiritual thing, and I'm not a religious person per se, but like the most purest like connection with the universe I feel is when I'm playing with one of my bands and you know rocking out. That shit just it's hard to describe to non musicians, but that's why I do it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No, I get it. It's I'm thinking of Braun too. I don't know if you watched his Drumeo recently.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes,
Well,
yeah.
and then even he was self-conscious. I don't know if it's self-conscious is the right way to say it. I think it again goes back to just a righteous humility. But I remember on his Instagram, someone made the comments like, "Hey, was it just me or did he play that fast in the beginning?" And then he responded to the comment and said, "Yeah, I was still getting the jitters out while I was there, and so yes, I did play that fast, but then I think I recovered later." But for him, so it's still going on with him.
Dude, that blows me away. I talked to him about that too, and specifically because I had the good fortune to meet Billy Reimer, who used to play with Dillinger Escape Plan. He plays with End, and phenomenal, another phenomenal, crazy drummer. Got to meet him, and I asked him specifically, like, what was the most, or that subject came up about Drumeo, and he said, dude, of all the things we've ever done, all the tours, any show I've ever played, that's the most nervous I've ever been, is doing Drumeo, because you're just sitting there with all these lights and cameras pointed at you. There's one guy right here, and then there's a screen where you can see like how many thousands of people are live watching you. And there's not a band, you're just a drummer. It's
Yeah,
up close. And there's a bunch of other drummers just micro analyzing every little hit and thing. So I'm not sure I could do it, man. Like, big respect to Braun and anybody, but I think he killed that. I mean, and I love watching his there's a lot of videos on YouTube he did for Minel where he does Mastodon playthroughs
yeah,
that are
yeah.
just incredible.
I've,
Just
I've
incredible.
I think I've seen all those too. I'm a guitarist and a wannabe singer, I would say. But what I'm looking for first, I think, I'm always listening to the drums first. To me, they're the most important part. Just and for my taste, that's what
Right.
I want to know is got it down solid, and that's why I'm now a fast fan of Palaces, man. Because
Oh, well, dude, thank you so much, man, for real. Thank you.
and that's why I got into Mastodon was listening to
Yeah.
Leviathan, and like you put it beautifully, that like every part is like a lead,
Yeah,
but it still makes it work.
and the thing I love about Braun's drumming too is sometimes he'll go past the bar line, or he'll be doing a fill where it makes you, like, for a second be like, oh shit, is he gonna land that? It's like watching a skater, do the first 900 or whatever, and then bam, he's right back in on it, and you're just like, holy, it's exciting because it's unpredictable, like watching him play. Especially the first time you've heard new Mastodon material, it's always like it's unpredictable, and I love that because nowadays I think there's a lot of metal out there that sadly, you can hear it and you're like,
Yeah,
okay, I know there's a change coming. I know this is the breakdown. I know this is the, whatever. So, like, I've always loved that about Mastodon's music, that there's that element of unpredictability in the way they write, in the way they conceive their parts. And Braun just, the thing I love about him the most is, like, who else is out there that you could say sounds like him? Like, he's
mhm,
his own thing, and he developed his own identity. And when you hear him play, you're like, oh, that's Braun. Like, it's instantly identifiable, and often imitated and never duplicated. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, and that is the weird thing, being a drummer in Atlanta. I think you always kind of, if you're playing metal, especially if you're trying to do non-genre metal. I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like our goal with Palace has always been, like, me and Eric founded the band in 2010 um, as a three-piece, and then our original bass player left to form another band, and we got with Jeremy in 2015. Steven joined right after the pandemic. He moved here from Utah, but, like, all through these years, our thing has been to just write music that we thought was cool. We never had a preconceived thing of, like, we have to write a thrash part, or we have to write a breakdown here, or we have to do a death metal passage, or, like, it's just been like this
mhm,
blender of influences. And I feel like when you're playing non-genre music and you're in Atlanta, you're always kind of in the shadow of course, Mastodon's the biggest metal band to ever come out of Atlanta. So as much as I'm inspired by them, I never want people to, like, hear our songs and say, oh, they're, that's directly pulled from,
Mastodon,
like, yeah, like,
of course, yeah,
you want to form your own voice and identity, so um that's another thing. I guess I'll take this opportunity to mention too, um we're in the process of recording a new album, and fortunate enough that Bill believes in us enough to record the album. He's engineering and recording the album. Almost all the tracks are done. He had to go out on tour, so we're gonna pick it back up when he gets back. But a few more guitar tracks to do, and then vocals, and we're excited to get this out there.
That is huge news. And if anybody missed it, who's maybe a listener that's or a watcher that's not into Mastodon or not part of that metal community, he's talking about Bill Kelleher
Or
from
William Kelleher, as he's known on social media. Yeah.
Yeah, the guitarist, one of the guitarists in Mastodon, is loves Palace. I would say it this way: loves Palace. Maybe you can't say it this way, but loves Palace is that much where he wanted to be involved and record your next album. That's huge.
It was shocking when he called me and was like, because we tracked the drums at his studio at Ember City, West End Sound, to him and Tom Tapley. And Tom's a great dude. I love that guy. He's the engineer there. And I really wanted to do the drums with Tom because we've played there. We've done a couple other things there, and I felt super comfortable. And all our budget went to tracking the drums with Tom. And then we were going to try to go home and self-record the rest of it. And Bill called me and was like, dude, don't do that. Come to my house and record it. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, come. It blew me away because, Bill, good grief, one of the best guitarists, accomplished dude. I admire him. There's no words to describe how I admire his talent. And he has a great studio at his house. But when he called me and said that, and I was like, well, I was speechless, and I was like, wow, that you want to do that for us, so we took that opportunity, and it's been a trip, man. It's wild. But again, I'm so fortunate. I owe so much to Bill. I can never repay him, man. But it just goes back to that thing of like community and how cool those dudes are. Like we're so excited about people hearing it though, man, because Bill's had a little bit of, he's very detail oriented, man, and he's had some creative input and heard some things and said, man, let's try this, let's do this. And of course there's a endless amount of amazing Les Pauls and guitars at his house that he's like telling Steven or Eric, like, hey, try this guitar on this track, or try this pedal, or try whatever. So he's very involved, man. Like and he's also a genius at getting guitar tones, so the guitars are sounding freaking huge. And I just wanted to get that out there, that we're stoked about that. And that's what we have coming up here, hopefully early next year, is getting that out to the world.
That's amazing. And sorry, I was just telling someone to stop texting me. What a dream come true. That would be my dream come true. To have someone from the best band in the world
For
to
real.
offer their services.
And I constantly use that as a reality check. Like, how many other bands in the world would kill to have that opportunity? And just I can't be thankful enough. It's hard to process sometimes, So yeah, man, it's been a wild trip to finally start having this kind of stuff happen, as long as I've been playing. But life is weird, man. We all take different journeys to get to where we're going. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's been times when it's been hard and discouraging, but I want to say to everybody that ends up seeing this, if you're a musician, keep grinding. And I've always had the mentality is, if you do something genuinely, and you're not looking for like a quick, like, I want to get famous, all that shit doesn't matter. Play music that you feel makes you happy, that and eventually, if you're honest and genuine, something good will come of it. But sometimes you have to persevere through years of BS and life and adulting and all the other things that happen.
Yeah, I in my life's journey, that's a word that comes up a lot. If I've learned anything, is authenticity. And to be authentic, and you're really landing something special when your passions intersect with your skill sets that are
Right.
you're authentically good at. I think, and in some people, I think it can, and maybe even me still too, in some degrees, some ways, but I think sometimes people have a passion for something, but they're not good at it.
Right.
And other people, have a sick skill sets and whatever it is, but
they don't have the
doesn't
drive
really-
or the work ethic to like keep. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. it's wild too. Like, you know, in my professional life, my day job, you know, people be like, "Oh, you're in a metal band, you play drums." Like they can't fathom it, and I'm like, I relate it to them. Like, well, you golf, you do whatever. This is my thing, but at the same time, like, I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand why you're passionate about these kind of things. But like, um, I don't know, man. I love music. I love drums, and I started out as a bass player. I started playing drums later in life
Hmm.
because we couldn't find a drummer at the time. So I think I started when I was 24. You know, but like you said, the first, even though when I was playing bass and everything, and the thing that attracted me to metal when I was a kid is the drums, and that's always the first thing I hear too. So if and there's that saying like your band's only as good as your drummer, which I will say, you know, not saying I 100% agree with that, but it does tend to be true. You
Well, if
know
the
what I mean?
drummer sucks, if the drummer's off,
Yeah,
that's the first thing people would notice, you know? I
yeah,
mean, a guitarist has a little bit of leeway and can mess up
right,
here and there. I think
right. Yeah,
that's
I guess
why that.
I guess that's one of the first things a non-musician too, like somebody that's just a fan of music, if they're at a show or they're listening to something, that's one of the things they can instantly detect if the beat is off.
Yeah.
Even to, you know, because I think a lot of times as dudes that play the kind of music I do, you're probably playing for a room of a bunch of other dudes that play music. You know what I mean? So there's that aspect of it. Like, you know, that you can't bullshit those people. They're gonna know if you're off or you're making mistakes. So you know, speaking, you know, like pressure wise too, I knew like at the show you came to, I was like, my drum hero's standing somewhere in this room. I can't be bullshitting this, you know, like, but I usually get a little nervous before playing, but that night, I think I was just so stoked. Something happened. It was time to play, and all that stuff went away, and I just had a
Oh,
good time.
that's amazing. I was going to ask you that. Did it change? Because I didn't hear. If you messed up at all, I didn't hear it. But yeah, I was going to ask if how you mitigated what had to be nerve wracking with your hero in the room. But it sounds like you got some grace from somewhere, and
Well,
it just rolled.
you know what it was, man, is how do I describe this? I think leading up to that show, like it was a short notice show. Like they kind of put that together. It wasn't like we had a long time to get ready for it. Eric happened to be in Alaska for like a 10-day trip with his girlfriend. Jeremy was in France when we got asked to do this. So, you know, we're texting like, are you going to be back in time? And Eric had to change his flight. You know, we had to do what we had to do to make everything happen. Eric came back in town like 1 in the morning, the day of the show. So we all didn't get together and practice for it. So leading up to it, we were, you know, me and Steven got together a couple times. I was running it in my mind, like, okay, here's the songs we're gonna play. So most of it was like mental preparation. Um, and I was nervous as shit, man, leading up to it. Like the couple of days before that show, like I was having trouble sleeping, my stomach's churning, you know, because you know, too, you're playing to a sold out show of Mastodon fans. They appreciate good drumming. You don't want to go and play some sloppy crap, you know. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and then we got there that day, and I got to watch Mastodon sound check, and then we sound checked, and I don't know, man, something I was just like everything was sounding good. Everybody, our friends were there. The vibe was just right. I don't know, man, and I tend to be I get that nervous excitement to play shows. I love that. I always tell people it's like waiting in line to get on a roller coaster, and you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And once you get on, you know, like how it is when you play shows, like once you start, there's no stopping or getting off that ride. You have to ride that out. It's like blasting off to the moon, man. Like once the countdown goes, it's like boom. And I tend to get a little nervous, and it's more, I think, excitement. But that show, I don't know, man. I think it's because too we had. I think one of the guys that does sound for Mastodon was running sound. Monitor sounded killer. Everything
Was that
sounded great.
Darren Sanders?
And so it just, I don't know, the stars aligned that night, and I felt like I felt like we had a good show. But people like you paid us some compliments. I still can't fully wrap my mind around. So thank you, man. It was an awesome opportunity to get to play that show and to play to the people we did, like you and Rick and all the folks from out of town that came down. Man, that was just awesome.
Yeah, it's a special thing anyway, I think. Like I'm going to Mastodon today in Richmond. So
Oh
it
yeah,
was a
have
great
fun
day.
at that.
Yeah, but who am I going to run to? I already know one Mastodon Mayhemmer guy who I met a long time ago at a VIP meet and greet. And we're going to be hanging out today. I'll probably run into other Mayhemmers. And that's special anyway, I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
then,
was going to tell you at the show I went to the other night. You know, the Lamb of God Mastodon tour here in Atlanta. I went to, and I spotted like 7 or 8 people wearing the big hairy elephant shirt from the show, and so I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, man, I ran and hung out with John, a Mayhem group member that I met through that show, and he's awesome and rad, and we hung out and talked, and I'm gonna try to go see. He's a musician as well and is playing a show in a couple weeks. I'm gonna try to go check out. So not to make this whole interview Mastodon centric, but it just that band has led to so many cool things in my life. I mean, so many cool people. I can't thank them enough for what they do. And I tell Bill, like, man, you know, all the music you've made has made my time on this planet a lot more enjoyable, man. So thank you. You know, I can't ever thank those guys enough. I love those dudes.
well, hey, because it has been Mastodon centric to a degree, right? I think that
Yep.
gives us license to post in Mastodon Mayhem when this is done. So,
Well, that would be rad, man. I always feel bad posting anything that's not 100% Mastodon related in there, and I did post a couple of things about the show, just because I'm so damn excited about it. And, so apologies to the admins of the group if I overstepped in that regard, but
I'm sure you
me,
didn't. It's
I think me and Steven are both pretty active in that group. One of
yeah,
our guitar players, Steven.
yeah.
Yeah, because you know it's funny the way we met him. We struggled with like, should we add a second guitar player? Me and Eric talked about it for years because we were always a 3 piece. And I love power trio bands. You know, like that's a cool. If you see a good 3 piece band, like that's pretty badass. And I always thought it
Mhm.
was cool when if the guitar player is doing a lead and it's just bass and drums for a second. I always dug that. I thought it sounded cool. But we wanted to start expanding, you know, some of the guitar ideas. And we thought about getting a second guitar player, a fourth member for a long time, but we never really did anything about it. And then we played a show like early 2022, I think. It was like right after shows started happening again in Atlanta after the pandemic. And this guy comes up to me after we played. He's like, "Hey, I'm Steven." And he had like a crack the sky patch on his vest or whatever. And so that was the
Mhm.
first thing I noticed. Like, okay, he's, you know, I could talk or I have something in common with this dude. And so we started talking to Steven and he was new to Atlanta. And it's just another one of those crazy things. I feel like, man, life is weird because he moved from St. George, Utah to Atlanta and had only been here
Wow,
like a month and then met us. And he just came up to me at a show. And then a couple of months later, he learned some songs, came and tried out. He was a good fit. And he's an awesome dude. And I think that was the addition into our band that helped kind of develop our sound into what it is now. So, um,
that's great.
it's wild, but that's another, you know, like the first thing I noticed when he came up to me is his Mastodon patch on his little thing.
Yeah, what a
He was
great.
wearing like a jean jacket, and I saw that. It was like a crack the sky thing he
Oh.
had on his jacket, and I was like, okay, cool, you know. So, uh, but yeah, I just wanted to interject that. It's just, but I think the whole going back to that thing of like life is a weird journey. It's just like, what are the odds some dude from St. George, Utah, is going to move to Atlanta and happen to be a badass guitar player? You know, I mean, like it's just
Oh.
wild. The whole thing's wild.
Yeah. Well, and it was. I really love talking to Steven too. I think I talked to you and Steven the most that
Yeah,
night, and we were just hanging out by the palace, just by the merch table.
dude. Well, thank you for the
Um,
support, man. That's awesome.
oh yeah, of course, it was great. It's such a unique shirt too. And hey,
Yeah, yeah.
I look good in it.
That's
Come on, man.
that's he made that. That's been an interband joke forever. Like pal asses, you know,
Yeah.
like we refer to each other that way. And so he had the idea to make that shirt for just for that show, the Big Hairy Elephant show. So that was a limited run shirt. But Steven's an artist as well, like a visual artist as well. He draws, he does all kinds of stuff, man. The guy's a truly hardworking, multi-talented dude. So he makes a lot of our merch, and that's another thing he brought to the band is that ability to do to you know do our own artwork, and it just added kind of to like what we could do internally, which I think is important nowadays. It's you know like it's expensive, man, trying to make albums and trying to make merch and trying to do
Yeah.
so. So that was another thing we were real fortunate to find with a dude like Steven joining the band. But
Do you guys intersect at all? We've had Jay Crash on the show,
yes,
who's a
yes,
phenomenal human being.
yes, dude. I saw him. I went to his festival yesterday. You know, he's putting on a series of summer music fest here in Atlanta. But can't say enough good things about Jay. I love that guy, man. I fully support Terminus Hate City and everything he does, man. And he's put Palaces on some truly amazing shows. Like asked us to like we got to play with He Is Legend, a sold out He Is Legend show
Mm.
about a year and a half ago. That was rad. With Valiant Thor, I mean that was killer. Um, so yeah, he's an awesome dude. He has a cool band. He plays guitar. I don't know if you've checked out his band, but
Theory? Yeah.
Imperi, yeah, like man, they're awesome live band. But yeah, man, I think Yosemite in Black is on his label, and
Yeah.
man, he is one of the most hardest working dudes to promote the local scene I've ever. And he's a genuinely super cool, nice dude. So yeah, shout out to Jay if he ends up seeing this. What's up, homie?
Yeah, shout out to
Yeah.
Jay. Yeah, I kind of look at him as like a major ambassador for DIY. Like, let's stop being reliant on these big
Yes.
labels.
Yeah.
Let's how about we take them out of the equation? Because you know what? We can do it.
Yeah. And another thing, I think he has that mentality towards his booking. You know, he decided like I'm going to quit relying on promoters and going and begging them for shows. I'm gonna become a promoter and I'm gonna put on my own events. And I mean, these festival things he's put on, man. I mean, like thousands, you know, huge crowds, awesome vendors, food, like they're incredible events. And hopefully, maybe if he keeps doing these next summer, you can make it down for one. But man, like all day long outdoor like festivals he's putting on, and they're free admission, and you get to see amazing bands. Like Jay's huge, man, in Atlanta. He's the man. So
And then he partners with Sid Howell. Sid Howell's been on the
yep,
show too.
Sid Howell is another huge name here in the music show. I guess in shows and promotion here in Atlanta. He famously put on Snowblind Fest, and he used to be instrumental in Slaughter Q, which was an annual fest that goes back years and years in Atlanta. I'm not sure if that's happening anymore. I don't think it happened last year, but the pandemic screwed a lot of that up. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pandemic screwed up so many people.
It was weird to live through that.
Man,
It's so crazy that we lived through that. Now it seems like a dream or a nightmare or whatever, but
yeah.
it's wild, man. You know, I'm just glad we're all back to hanging out and playing live music again. That was hard to
Yeah.
live through, for sure. But
Um,
and I think that was a thing. Like we kind of that's how we got involved with recording at Ember City because during the pandemic we couldn't play shows, so we decided to do a live from West End
nice.
sound thing. That was our first experience going in with Tom Tapley. He's an engineer on the last few Mastodon albums. He did the new Roll Thunder album. Amazing credits if you look that guy up. He's worked with, I mean, just huge names in the music business. But we went in and did that, and it was such a pleasurable experience. That's what made me want to go back and do the drum tracks for our next album there. So if you're anywhere around Atlanta and you need recording done, man, can't endorse that place enough.
You know, I think at one point I tried to see if I could get him on the show. I think Tom Cheshire, he's a friend of mine. I'm actually going to
Oh
see
yeah, I love
him.
Tom. Yeah,
I'm going to see him in Puerto Rico next month because luckily work is sending me there for something. But so we've been friends for a really long time, but only online. We haven't met each other, so I'll be meeting him.
yeah. Tom's a rad dude, man. Love him as well. Like, I was gonna ask you what was your gateway into getting to know some of these Atlanta people, or how did you become aware of the Atlanta scene originally outside of Mastodon, I guess?
Well, kind of really all Mastodon. At least
Yeah,
that's how it started, and then just understanding Mastodon's history. Uh,
and then I
uh,
guess West End Motel is like what led you to discover Cheshire and
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I think I met Tom through Mastodon Mayhem, and then I started checking out West End Motel just because of the Bright
Yep.
Homes connection and becoming a fan. And in fact, I have a couple covers of two of their songs that I did, where Tom helped me with it. I was like, "Hey, I
Oh,
love
hell
this
yeah.
song,"
That's
and,
awesome.
and he sent me like the lyrics. He sent me the chord progressions. If anything was tricky, he was awesome. And so did that was my pandemic. I called them COVID covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
did
man.
Tiny Man, which is a brilliant song, and then oh, I'm gonna mess up the name, Birmingham. I don't think it's just called Birmingham. I think it's called On My Way to Birmingham. Anyway, great song.
Mhm.
And not only that, but Tom, on one of my birthdays, him and another guitarist from West End Motel. Sorry guys, I'm just having trouble remembering names right now. Did send me a happy birthday message on my birthday, which was like super cool. And
Yeah, man. I I got to know Tom. Well, Tom's been a guy in Atlanta who's been in some legendary bands ever since I've been in the scene. But so he's kind of like a local legend, Cheshire is.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and he's coming back to Atlanta to play a benefit show in a couple of weeks. So hopefully I'll get to see him and hang out with him. But
yeah,
if you don't mind, Jesse, I had a question I wanted to ask you. I wanted to flip the
sure,
script and interview you on something because I'm always
yeah,
interested in this.
hmm
Like when you were growing up, what was your gateway into just like becoming a metal fan? What was the bands that got you into listening to metal?
I think like many, the '80s thrash scene, and
Yep.
specifically Megadeth and Metallica.
Yeah.
I was a guitar player in high school, junior high school, and that I was scared of that music. I was always first it was like Jimi Hendrix, you know, your typical Stevie Ray
Yeah.
Vaughan, as a guitarist trying to learn and what was sick out there to try to play to that level. And then
Right.
Megadeth blew it all out of the water for me. The
Yeah.
the just insane riffs. Like Metallica had pretty simple riffs, but put them in a way that was just killer that I loved and very accessible. Megadeth, I was scared of Megadeth. Thought
Yeah.
it was like
Right.
I thought it was like devil music, but then man, it's just the riffage um, took over for me and made me want to just. And then I dove right head first into metal. But so I'll tell you a little interesting story. So Megadeth was definitely a big one, but and then that led to all kinds of things. I didn't get into Mastodon until I think 2006, I believe it was. And someone
Yeah.
gave me a CD that had both Leviathan and what's the other one? Blood Mountain.
Blood Mountain. Yeah.
And I'll tell you the exact riff that I knew I would be their biggest fan forever was the Wolf is Loose riff in
Yeah.
the middle. It's like da, 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 da,
Yeah.
da,
Yeah.
da.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
That whole album, I think Blood Mountain, like gets eclipsed sometimes being talked about amongst their catalog. But man, like that album is full of some of their most crazy technical arrangements and awesome riffs and the drumming, but because I think a lot of people discovered Mastodon when Crack the Sky came out. I meet so
yeah,
many people that like that was their first Mastodon experience. Like seeing them on Ozfest or one of when they started doing bigger tours around that time. But but yeah, man, I went kind of like from being a skater kid and listening to a bunch of punk rock into like Iron Maiden, and then like I discovered Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth. But yeah, Megadeth. I remember that early Megadeth man was vicious. Like you
yeah,
listen to their version of that song Mechanics compared to like Metallica's Four Horsemen or whatever.
yeah. It's eight
And
times
Megadeth
faster.
played it like way faster, like same song. Megadeth did their version of the same song, called it something different, but same, dun, 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 that riff. And at the time back then playing bass, I would try to learn that, and it was so damn fast I could not. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it was crazy. But then yeah, like I said before, that led me into the whole world of underground metal music, and you just realize like, holy crap, man, there's so much good stuff out here that
yeah,
is not part of the big four. I guess they used to refer to it as the Slayer, Anthrax, but like hundreds of bands, and I think that's kind of the thing too. I appreciate your channel for giving smaller bands exposure, man, because there's so much good music out there these days, and everybody's trying to get noticed or wants people to hear their stuff. So we really appreciate you giving us this outlet to talk and hopefully maybe get a couple of new fans. But you know, it's like a million voices out there screaming, like, and only a couple punch through and get heard. But it's
Yeah.
it's truly it's truly an amazing time to be alive as a metal fan because there's just every day I hear you could go on YouTube and just randomly hear some music and just be like, holy shit, this is incredible. How have I not heard about this before? It's almost overwhelming. There's too much to keep up with sometimes, I feel like. But
Well,
there's
yeah.
so much good music being made, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because for me, maybe I'm just realizing this right now as we talk. You know, I always, all the metal bands I liked in junior high, which is your Big Four and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
That stayed with me, till now. I still listen to all of them, but I never really branched off very much into new music. And it's funny now I'm thinking about it, meeting Jay Crash, going to Atlanta a couple times and meeting you guys,
Hmm.
and who I met. I was there back in January too and met a bunch of people. I met Drifter. They were
Yes.
awesome.
Hey, can I give a
And
shout out
so
real quick for
yeah.
to Eric from Drifter for doing my remission Paul Romano burning horse tattoo.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, man. I wanted this for years because that album changed my life, and finally, I was hesitant to pick a guitar. I mean, a tattoo artist that could do it justice, man, and he nailed it. And I love Drifter; those are friends of ours too. But yeah, Eric's awesome, awesome bassist, also amazing tattoo artist here in Atlanta.
But so this gateway again, I think it was just me like kind of want to understand the spirit behind Mastodon's beginnings. I think that's
Yep.
probably an accurate way to say it. Has led me to a couple of trips down there. But what the great awesome thing that's happening is I'm being exposed to all this great new music, and I'm finally my brain. I think it's because I'm getting to know you guys. My brain is opening the door, and uh, and the big four, big four is still great up here, but I was getting exposed to all this great music and loving it. Whereas maybe if I
Yeah.
heard it and I hadn't met you guys, well, I'm sure I just may not have ever been exposed to it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, man. I think going out and seeing smaller or local shows, you know, getting involved in your local scene really will expose you to some of the best music you ever heard that otherwise you probably would have never known existed, man. And I remember being a little kid and listening to all these bands we're talking about. And a friend of mine, one of my best friends, she was dating this guy who was a bass player, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come with me to his band practice?" And I was like, "Okay." I think I was like 14, 15 at the time. And we go out to this place, middle of nowhere, and it's like a self storage type place and they practiced in one of those things. And I walked in there, man. This is probably like 1987, 88, and I was blown away. Like killer band, killer thrash band here in Atlanta, from back in the day. And that was the first time I realized, like, wow, man, like normal regular people could do this, and there's band like they were just as good as anything I had heard from a big band, but they were just, you know, some dudes in a shed, you know,
yeah,
who love playing music, and that's what made me be like, I want to do that. I want to play music. You know,
yeah.
that was kind of my gateway into like I started listening. It was probably a lot of the same stuff you did, but like when I discovered there was a local scene, you know, I was like, shit, yeah, man, like
Mm.
normal people could do this. You don't have to be like from LA or wherever, you know, like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And the crazy thing to think about is probably every major city in the country has a killer scene, you know, and I wish I didn't have to work or I could just spend all time on music and taking all that in. But you
Well,
know,
you know
like
what's funny? I think another reason why I just feel so connected to Atlanta is because maybe starving for it. You know, I grew up in LA and I was in a
oh
band in
wow.
LA, and there was not camaraderie like that. Not like Atlanta. No way. I mean, everybody was, not everybody, but like it was competitive in a not in a
Hmm.
good way. Um, and so I never, in all the places I've lived, there's been a few. I never felt connected to a music scene so much. In Atlanta, I always say, like, man, there's in Little Five Points, there's like something in the water, where there's this great community, and I think in my life I've starved for that, to be a part of something like that, and so I think
Right.
that also informed getting to know you guys. And no offense to any other channels that are out there in Atlanta. I'm sure
Yeah,
they're
right.
great too, but one of my things is maybe I'm a proxy show for Atlanta bands, which would be a huge honor.
I do kind of view you that way, man. But like, um, I will say from the years I've been playing and up till now, like Atlanta has developed such a supportive and a scene where all these bands like no, yeah, there's not like this pettiness. Everybody supports each other, and the way I always view it is like, man, we're playing fairly underground music. We're not ever going to be on top 40 radio, right? Like, why would you alienate or be a dick to anybody in the scene when there's a small enough audience for this music already? Like, bring people in and support each other. And the great thing I love about Atlanta nowadays, every show we play, it's a mixed bill, right? It's not like all four bands are playing the same style of music, man. We'll play shows with noise rock bands, we'll play shows with thrash bands, death metal bands, any kind of, as long as it's heavy DIY music,
Yeah.
all those people support the shit out of each other. And it's not like a clique or a scene where like you're not wearing the right type of shirt. So, there's none of that shit. I remember
Mhm.
back when I started, man, Atlanta did have a little bit of that, like what you're describing in LA, and bands would beef with each other, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
But the last like 25 years, man, I feel like if you're playing any kind of DIY heavier on the heavier end of the spectrum music in Atlanta, like all the bands are friends, and we all support each other, man, and that's why I try to make it out as much as I can, being a dad and in three bands. And I deal with guilt all the time. Like, oh man, my friends are playing tonight and I can't make it, but I
Yeah.
wish I could make it to everybody's shows. But Atlanta's a great city, I think, for that reason. And I hope everywhere's like that. But, it goes back to like the dudes in Mastodon supporting smaller bands, and helping us out. It's like just everybody in the city. I don't know. It's a great time to be here because there is that inclusive element, and there's no drama, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's cool, so
Well,
I love that about Atlanta.
the other cool thing too about that trip is, one, I didn't expect to see bands like Drifter, and there was other ones too that day that of course I can't remember their names at the moment, but I loved all of them. And then I met some people at Star Bar down in the downstairs lounge, and they took
Yep.
me out. This me, a complete stranger, took me
Yeah.
out to a bunch of other places, and I got to see even other bands that,
Oh, hell yeah.
and I was like, I loved every band I saw. I
Yeah.
loved them
Yeah,
all.
man.
It was
I
really great.
I will have to, once this is over, I'll have to put together email and send you some Bandcamp links to all the bands that we really look up or think are awesome here in Atlanta. Let you check them out. There's so
Yeah,
many good ones.
sure.
Yeah, and it's really got to the point, and I say this all the time. It's kind of like it's a blessing and a curse that so many bands that are good, and if on any given night of the week there's multiple shows, and you don't ever want to play a competing show like at a different venue with your friends, but it ends up
Oh yeah,
happening.
that is
But
the thing.
that's a great problem to have, man.
Yeah,
Because but it's like sometimes I see people come in from out of town and they'll post in like there's a couple of Atlanta metal groups, and they'll post in there like, "Hey, I'm from out of town. Is any shows going on tonight?" Then people just boom, 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 boom. There's like 5, 6 shows you can pick from, because there's a lot of good live. There's so much good live music here, and as a musician and a fan of music, man, I love to go out and see other bands that get inspired by what they're doing, man, and a lot of them are just killer performers. It's there's that element of writing good music, but there's also that element of playing it live, and and having good energy when you're playing, And I will say, like the show I met you at, man, like the crowd was awesome, and I think that's what helped us like really play a good show. Is like that's so awesome to play to a crowd that's really glad to be there,
Yeah.
and you get that. I hear famous musicians talk about it all the time. Like when you play in front of really large crowds, you get like there's an energy flow back and forth that you get, and it nothing can describe that. You know what that feels like. Like it's a crazy feeling, but man, I don't know. It's just a great time to be alive here in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's probably why I'm so drawn to it. And
Maybe we get you to move down here one day, man.
yeah, maybe, now
Yeah,
that remote work is more accepted
right.
in the whole corporate scene. But the more I think about it, the more I love that people are saying, hey, I don't have to be dependent on a big label, and maybe changing the game. And I don't think it's too crazy to say that it's a movement. And I think Jay's
Oh,
at the head
sure.
of that. You're at the head of that. And then you got bands like Mastodon that are also providing some of their energy and fire behind it, like they are with you and Palaces.
Yeah, and I'm and too. There's things I look at like years ago didn't Clutch. If you're familiar with Clutch, I think their contract was up with a big label, and they said, "Hell, man, we're going to start our own and put out our music." And I think that's good for artists when they own all the publishing, they own all the, and I don't know a ton about that. That's one part of music I've always let other people in the band deal with or whatever. I don't like the business side of it. That's not
Yeah,
what I do it for. And I know it's
yeah,
a necessary evil to deal with, but like you hear these horror stories of like bands signing these deals and they don't have the rights to their own music, and there's all these legal things. It's like, why not go back to the DIY ethos of, like we're gonna own it, we're gonna put it out, we're gonna try to do all this stuff ourselves. And guys like Jay Crash, who we mentioned earlier with Terminus 8 City, he's those kind of people, man, are so necessary. And that I think that's the way forward in the digital age for artists
yeah.
is to not sign these. I know everybody grows up thinking, "Oh, I want to get a record deal." That sounds awesome when you're a kid, but then you realize like record deals are a double-edged sword, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess it works for some people, but I've just never seen myself going down that path. Like of, I guess I've never been able to conceive I would ever be good enough to get in a band that would get a record deal is one problem. But like also, if I ever did, I would want to have control over my music and how it gets put out and those kind of things. You know what I mean? So it it, it is a movement, man. Because the internet of things killed the old business model, of
Hmm.
music and how it was done, which a lot of people complain about. But at the same time, look what it gave us the freedom to do.
Yeah.
And again, it's that thing of like it's a double-edged sword in the fact that like now so many bands can self-publish. There's just so much damn good music. It's hard to punch through and get noticed on a larger scale outside of your own city sometimes because there is just so much good content, man.
Yeah.
So many good bands. And I think too, these kids that are now turning 20, 25, the younger kids, they grew up with YouTube.
Yeah.
We didn't have to. I used to have to like go out and pick up zines or like talk to word of mouth, like, hey, have you heard of this band? Now, like kids, they're growing up in the middle of nowhere. They could get on YouTube and watch tutorials, how to play blast beats, whatever, how to play guitar, arpeggios, and they're growing up in this era where shit, man, they've got infinite information at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So at a younger age, they're coming up like you go on the internet every day and see a 60-year-old kid that could just shred.
Yeah.
And that's something that didn't happen when I was a kid. It was rare. You had to usually the older dudes that had been playing for years got to that point. But now it's like shit, it's terrifying. There's drummers I look at all the time online that are I'm like, how are they not in a band? They're just like Instagram drummers or YouTube drummers, but they're amazing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, it's great.
the fact that anybody ever thinks anything I'm doing drum wise is good is a huge honor, man, because there's so many good people out there playing music, so many good drummers and so many good bands.
Well,
So once again, I would take that opportunity to thank you and thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, and I love it, and it's my style too. I do drum a little bit, not got no I never teased it out or try to get better. Just like I think I know 3 beats or something,
All
but
right.
I do
Well,
have a
hey, man,
style that I'm attracted to when it comes to drumming, and it's whatever you're doing. I don't even know what to call it, but it's whatever you're doing.
dude, thank you so much, man. I'm not formally trained at all, and I'm self-taught, so I think it all just comes from like hearing riffs and reacting to them. But again, I try to do it. I don't try to think about it, man. I try to like hear it, just let it come naturally. And I'm super thankful for all the people that have let me be in their bands, and if that's how I've learned to play is just by jamming with people, you know. And
Yeah,
I will say there is a thing like I've noticed with some kids that do grow up like learning on YouTube, and it almost makes them like unable to jam.
mm,
You know, like, and that's how a lot of Palace's music is written. Is like we'll be in the room and Jeremy will play a bass line or Eric will say, "Hey, here I've got this," and then we'll just start. But everybody can hear it and react to it and start playing together.
yeah,
And that's something I would say to younger people getting into music is like practice that, man. Practice just getting in a room with your friends
yeah.
and not having like we're gonna play this song or we're gonna learn this cover. Start, fucking around and finding out, man. Just like let somebody start something, Let the drummer start a beat. You react to that. Like, I don't know if you've ever listened to stuff like Mars Volta, like I love Mars Volta
Oh yeah.
and how like live they'll just improvise in the middle of a song for like 5 minutes. And it sounds like they wrote it that way, but they're just jamming, man, or like growing up, my dad was a big Santana fan, it's that style of like it's like they're just having conversations in the music. So a lot of what Palaces does, I try to like view it that way, man, and that's also goes back to Braun's playing on the earlier Mastodon stuff. I remember I would go to every show they played and I really was familiar with their music, but I noticed he would every time he played a song, he was experimenting in that song and he would never play those songs exactly the same way twice, and so it kind of that's kind of ingrained in me that thing like you can always improve or you can always find a different way to make it cooler. I don't know,
Well,
like yeah.
I didn't mention this. I didn't even think about it till now, but I was a huge fish head, dude.
Oh, dude,
I
yeah,
love
I've seen
fish.
them. Yeah, I've seen them. When I met my wife, like her favorite band was Widespread Panic,
Yeah.
and bands like that. So, yeah, man, like that's a thing. Like that's not really my style of stuff, but same kind of ideas. Like those guys can jam for fucking 8 hours if they want.
Yeah. Sometimes it's
And never
annoying.
play the same thing. They never play the same thing twice, but they're like they're able to. The way me and you were talking, they're just doing it musically, man. And so I'm very fortunate that all the guys in Palaces are really talented in that regard. As far as like we've even joked about we should just book a show and go out and play all improv set, like
Oh man.
just straight up, because I've been playing with them for some like especially Jeremy and Eric playing with them for so many years is like we can just telepathically kind of figure out. It's wild, like when we are jamming, sometimes like we'll all hit a stop or we'll all hit a change, but it's like
Well,
it's that mind meld thing. I don't know that happens when you play with people for a long time.
so I just listened to a Mark Maron, the WTF podcast he has. I don't know if you listen to him at all, but
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
he
Yep,
just had Trey Anastasio on from Fish, the
yep,
guitarist, and which
yep.
I was blown away by. But he was a big influence just because he shreds. He's like amazing and unique. But he was talking about how they practice, and when they
Hmm.
practice backstage to practice improvisation, is like someone will start off with a line, whether it's drums or bass or guitar or whatever, and
Right.
then everybody in the band has to play a variation of that. And when it
Hmm.
gets to the last person and they all feel in sync, the game's called Hey, something like that. Hay's for horses, Hey. And if they then after the fourth person tags on, they transition into the next person to start it, but they all have to say Hey at the same time.
Wow. Reminds me of like a musical game of skate. Have you ever so like where two skaters have to like one dude will do a trick, the next guy has to do the same trick, and then that guy and like if you mess up S, K,
Yeah.
like and if you mess up 5 times and spell skate, you lose or whatever. It's kind of like that. Like, but that's a wild way of doing it. I've never heard of anybody doing it that way, but that's cool.
that's the last
But
thing I thought I would be mentioning. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But certainly, I think your message to the kids coming up is a good one. To learn how to play with each other, learn how to build off each other. Because that doesn't come natural to everybody. So I think that's
no, I don't think it came natural. I'm not saying it came natural to me, but like, or the people I jam with, but it is something that like you do have to work to develop, but it's a good skill to have. And one big red flag to me, if I ever am playing with another musician, like jamming with somebody and they can't just do that, I'm always like, it bums me out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If they have to like, let's play this song that's written, like we have to do this, like, I find that a lot of good musicians have that ability to quickly hear something and adapt and interpret and at least pick up, and start having that. It's like jazz, I guess, more like jazz musicians,
Yeah.
have those inter song conversations. Even though there's a preconceived framework within that, they're able to kind of like, hey, surprise each other a little bit. So that's always my goal with our band is like I'm still trying to surprise myself, like I'm still
Yeah.
trying to impress myself. And that's at the end of the day, that's who matters, man. You have to be happy and have fun. And to me, that's the fun aspect. Like I've always been drawn to bands like Dillinger Escape Plan or, Mastodon, like that chaotic, just like I love that, man. Like
Yeah.
um so that's a little bit of what I try to do. But thank you, Jesse, again so much for the kind words about my drumming. That's insane, man. Like thank you.
Yeah,
I
well,
appreciate
hey,
it.
let me ask you this. Is there anything that you would have liked me to ask that I didn't cover?
I wasn't gonna broach it, man, because we were talking about music, but I and it's not necessarily something you didn't ask or whatever, but
No.
we discussed it a little bit on the phone yesterday. I appreciate what you're trying to bring on the non-musical aspects of the Radical Metal channel, as far as like the what do you call it, the discussion in the discourse or whatever, that
Dignity,
concept of dignity
dignity
in
to
the
the
discourse.
discourse. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think that translates over to like when you're in a music can be politically charged. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? Traditionally, grind and punk and metal and all these things like had a very political. When I was growing up, Dead Kennedys and those kind of bands, like that was the attitude, man. It was like fuck the system and fuck,
hmm
rebellion and that kind of thing. And then nowadays we're also polarized and
Yeah.
propagandized by everything we look at. There's so much just being pushed at us from all these angles, and people tend to have these polarizing, ideas. And I think that's valuable discussions that you're having, man, about how to look at things from the middle and commonalities, and bring people together, man. I think that's super valuable. And we
Thanks,
need
man.
need to
Yeah.
need to do more of that. So thank you for what you do, man, for real.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, there'll be more of that. Radical metal.
I enjoyed your episode with the professor that you found that wrote that book.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah,
He's a
man.
legend, dude. He's a
I know.
legend.
Yeah,
I can't believe I got him. But
yeah, that was cool.
he picked up when I called right away. I mean,
I read.
literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Yeah, and when this gets put out, I'll share it to everybody to say like, please go check that episode out. It's very interesting. Not
Nice,
music
man.
related, but super cool to check out.
Why don't we do this, JB? I would love to have you back on the show, and really at any time. And why don't we dive into that a little bit more next time?
Yeah, man. I'm a political junkie and love to follow all that stuff. That's kind of other than music. That's one of my big passions is that. But yeah, man. Thank you, Jesse, for having me on. Big thanks for you coming down to Atlanta and checking out the show and becoming a fan of what we do, man. Like I can't thank you enough, and eternal gratitude, man. And I'd love to be back anytime.
Well, thank you
You know,
for being a band that I want to be a fan of. I don't
right on.
find
Well,
many.
well, if you would have us back when we're ready to, or we start putting out the new album, man, if we could come back and promote that, that would be sick. And please send me your address so I can send you some Palaces swag and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, email me,
yeah,
man. I'll
man.
send you some mail, like a limited shirt that you don't have and some stickers and some stuff.
I love that. And I suspect that I'll be back in Atlanta. I think it's going to be something I come back every few months, but I'll let you
Cool.
know. Maybe we can hang
Yeah.
out. Maybe we can do a radical metal at like Star Bar or something.
We can do one from Ember City, man, or from Kelly's Kitchen or something like that.
Yeah, I
Shout
still
out
haven't been to Ember City, but
You've never
yeah.
been there?
No, I wanted both times I've gone. I want someone to take me there, but it just never worked out.
Well, now you've got my phone number. You know, Jay Crash is based out of Ember City
Yeah.
too. And so many homies, friends of ours that play in cool bands are down there. You got to come down there one day and hang out, man. Give you the
Yeah.
tour.
Oh, man. Would
Give
love
you
that.
the tour. You can get back, see Kelly's, see where the pickles are made and all that stuff, man.
Yes, and shout out to Kelly for sure. Kelly
Shout out
Hester.
to Kelly, man. He's a rad dude, and it was a lot of fun going to the show the other night with him and Michelle and getting to go backstage and see all that stuff. It was wild.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
but they've been they're like great friends of the band, and they've been awesome people, and that's another. I love how they're ingrained into the Mastodon group on Facebook, and it's like a big supportive family in a lot of those ways. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
yeah, and I mean Mastodon putting the limited edition labels that they just put out, the 4 jars, that commercial, like all of it is just awesome. I think it's so
hilarious.
funny. Yeah, Bill like scripted that and directed that, and that's one of my favorite. Like, because Mastodon makes a lot of. They've always had that ability to make the tongue in cheek videos and not take themselves super serious.
Yeah.
You know, and make these funny. Like I don't know if you saw the advertisement for Braun's signature snare. You know, all that stuff they do, or like the cooking. Remember a few years ago, did you see the ones where it's like, you know, Troy cooking with Troy and all those Chef Troy
Oh,
RD.
dude,
All the,
I have a shirt that this shirt reminds me of it because it was like orange, but
yeah, it's like
it's
you
I have a
deserve it.
Chef Troy RD. Yeah, it's okay to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes. And, but I love all that stuff. But yeah, Bill scripted that Kelly's pickle commercial where he goes in and talks to Braun, talks to Troy, talks to Brett. And my favorite part of that is when he goes in and asks Brett, like, "Hey man, do you like jars with green liquid in it?" And he's like, "I do like jars." but
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so man, yeah, you've got to come down to Ember City and hang out for a day. Sometimes we always talk about doing a big cookout down there back around back. But next time you're coming into town, we'll try to get together. And I'm surprised you haven't been there yet, but yeah, I'll get you in there and hang out, man. It'd be awesome.
That's awesome, dude. I'll hold you
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, man. No, you got my number. Like, let me know.
Yeah.
But for real, man. Again, if we're wrapping up, I just want to say thank you uh, for talking with me today and having me on, man. And shout out to everybody that follows the channel and is in the Mastodon Mayhem group. I consider all those people my friends, even if I've never met them, man, because we all love the best band in the world. So, you know, in my opinion, and have fun at the show tonight, man. This show is so good, like visually and the music, like, but you're gonna be blown away by the stage show. It's awesome.
I can't wait. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
man.
Well, so can I plug is it Hellas Chasm?
Yeah, Hellas Chasma. Yeah, that's
And
named
then you
after
got
a.
oh
Yeah,
go
that's
ahead,
named
sorry.
after. Oh no, that's named after a geological feature on Mars. It's like the deepest valley and on the Martian surface. Eric came up with that idea, and
Nice.
we're kicking around ideas for our third album, which is the one we're working with Bill on. But yeah, you can find us on Bandcamp. You can our couple of releases we have out, and of course our Facebook page. But
And
yeah, man.
and stand by for the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully the third one will the third time's a charm. I know it will be with Bill involved. Hopefully, I'm excited about it. You know, and again, what an honor to get to work with that guy, man. And he is the most genuinely sweet, nicest dude. I mean, like to take his time to do this for a small local band is just fucking crazy. But he's been you know a supporter of us for a few years now, and it's just amazing, man. I sometimes think it's a dream like this. I equate it to like I tell people like what if you were back in like 1967 and you know Jimmy Page offered to help you record some shit or Jimi Hendrix. It's like I view them like they're that important to me musically, man. You
Yeah.
know, they're like so that they like I said, they're still so grounded and cool and down to earth dudes that they'll take their time to come play Star Bar with some local guys, or they'll take their time to help record an album for some local dudes. So
Amazing.
praise be to them, man, all the way. I can't say it
Yeah.
enough. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's just like I've got to say it, man, because I can never repay Bill for everything he's done for us, man. Dude is rad.
No,
So when you
that's
support
awesome.
Mastodon, you're supporting
Mm.
some good people. So go
Yeah,
buy some merch. Go to
I'm
the
gonna
show,
buy
buy
some
some
merch.
merch.
And
Yeah,
I'm
man.
gonna go. I'm either gonna go on this shirt or my big hairy elephant shirt. I'm not sure, but
I think you should rock the big hairy elephant shirt, man. It's like an Easter egg, and only those who
yeah,
know will know.
yeah.
Because at the show the other night, everybody that had one on would walk by and point to the dude, like if they saw somebody else with one. It's like, yeah, man, you were there, you know. So yeah, I think you should wear that one. Rock it out.
Well, I think I will. I really appreciate your time, JB. I'm so glad that we're friends and
Yeah,
we can
man.
talk like this. This might have been my favorite show so far. Honestly, I loved it.
Wow,
I really love
that's
talking to
crazy,
you.
but that's crazy. But thank you. And anytime you want me to come back, I'm happy to do it, man, and help you get some more subscribers too, and promote the channel for you is a goal for me, man. So yeah,
Thanks,
get you to
man.
get to 500, get to 1,000, and then just keep pushing it.
Yeah, man.
So
Well,
yeah,
yep.
man.
All right,
So,
JB. Well, hey, thanks again, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
yes, sir. Thank you. Y'all have fun at the show tonight.
All right, brother.
All right, man. See you, man.